Hello and welcome to another episode of the Curly Girl Interviews. Today is a treat for me and hopefully for all of you listening. Today I'm joined by my very dear friend and soon-to-be maid of honor for my upcoming wedding in July, Kelly McClellan. Welcome, Kelly. Thank you.
Renee.
Yes, thank you.
My honor to be here.
Aw. So I asked Kelly to join me for a variety of reasons. One, I just adore you, and
you're gonna make me cry. Don't make me cry.
That's okay. I recognize the importance of being surrounded by not only incredible women but powerful women. And what I mean by power is people that enrich us in ways that help us be better, that challenge us to be different. Anyone who knows me knows there are few people that can give it back to me or dish it out to me or whatever you want to say. But you are one person that I go to for the truth. And you are someone who I respect tremendously. And so when you give feedback or you give guidance, it resonates. And I think that's rare, especially for women. And I feel so grateful to be surrounded by many incredible women from so many different facets of my life. And so, again, thank you. Part of the reason why I wanted you here as well is the theme of these handful of interviews that I've done so far is really what I call a love story to women who have inspired me. And, you know, for those who do listen, it's to hopefully inspire people to take that journey of spirituality, of empowerment, of enlightenment, whatever label you want to put on it. It's encouraging us and giving us the space to stop the noise and start to be different, whatever that looks like, right? And you have an incredible story, you have an incredible journey, and I know it has inspired not only people that are close to us, but most recently you've been asked in your kind of work environment, professional environment, to share some of that wisdom. So for people that don't know you, can you do just kind of a quick highlight bio of Kelly McClellan?
Sure. Well, thank you for all the sweet words, of course. Super touching. But as you know, I moved here, it's now 24 years ago. And I remember I moved here with a boyfriend. We broke up. And I remember closing the door. He's leaving Arizona. I remember closing the door and going, I don't have one friend here. And at that time, it was my goal to just make my life here. And I met a couple great friends, started a great career. I was in sales for a hotel for many years. And then I was really kind of ignited by design, and I worked for a design company, a design firm for many years. And then I moved into a furniture company.
Sorry to interrupt, but tell people what design firm means for people not familiar with that career path.
Commercial architecture firm. So I did business development for them because I've always had a really strong interest in design. So, and then I work for a very large furniture design company now. So I was in sales for many years and love my career, thriving, focusing a lot on sales and making a life for my family and all these great things. I do have a daughter, as you know, 13-year-old daughter, and a very sweet husband named Tim, and my daughter's Remy. But I really had a turning point. Are we going here yet? Yeah.
Well, wait a second. So left your family. So Kelly's from Florida, left your family, came out here, but made a decision at that point in your life, 24 years ago. I'm staying here. Things didn't work out, but this is home for me now, right?
I think I just really didn't want to go back to Florida yet. I was like, I can't go back. I've only been here a year or two, right? So in the early part, I think it was just like my ego. I didn't want to go back. But then I met like this great group of friends and fell into a career I really liked and ended up making this my home. So
love it.
And everybody's back in Florida. So yeah.
So you create a new community.
Yeah.
We'll use the word community, which kind of resonates as I've been having these conversations, how important that is that we find our community. Having been part of your community, I would say the ebbs and flows of not only life through your 30s and 40s, but also evolution of who and how you are through that period of time.
Yeah.
Bring us forward to, let's say, the last 6 years. So you've
Yeah.
had a kid, you got married a little bit later in life.
Yeah. Had a kid at 39, shouting out to any of you older ladies.
But here's like, okay, I'm going to say first form of manifestation.
Yeah.
What was,
Yeah.
well, you were reading a book. We'll just leave it there. You were reading a book.
Oh, remind me. Was I reading a book?
I can't remember the
No,
name
keep
of the
going.
book.
Keep going.
Don't just date him, marry him. There's a book.
Oh.
I can't remember, but I remember I know this woman very well. And I just remember you being so intentional about I'm getting married and I am having a child. And there was it was putting the stake in the sand. This is happening. And it happened, right? So I'm only parking that there for a second because it's coming to me as we're having this conversation. Mm-hmm. But you were very intentional, and you always have been. Right. Anyone that knows Kelly knows that she has her limitations, right? Right. You used, not anymore, but you would go hard, turn it off so you could go to bed to work out in the morning. There were always certain things that were very important to you. Yeah. But again, last couple of years, I would say part of this is getting older, part of it is getting more intentional. And that's where I want to lean in. So let's step into that for a minute. So I was going through my emails the other day, and I found an email from you. I want to say it was from 2022, and it was talking about a journaling journey, like exercise or 30-day challenge. Yes. So bring us back, rewind the clock a couple of years ago. When did your true, not just I have to work out, when did your true I want to do life a little differently? What was that kind of either aha moment or how did you step into that?
So it happened over COVID because I had to slow down and it felt really comfortable. I was like, oh, I like this. I don't have to be anywhere. I started to realize that how much I was doing out of obligation and what wasn't really giving me the energy and the happiness and fulfillment that I wanted. So I actually I call it my midlife awakening is what I've had. And I think it really happened it started during COVID because I was able to slow down and that felt really comfortable. But what the journaling you're talking about is over COVID, I had a coworker who was like, do you want to do an abundance 21-day abundance meditation with journaling? And I was like, abundance? That's my favorite freaking subject. I'm like, I'm in, right? So I did it and I just felt like I was home. Like I loved it. Every single one came on and every message. It was Deepak Chopra and it was a lot of Eastern philosophy. And I would sit down to do it and I was just in love with it. So when it was over at the 21 days, I was kind of sad. And then I was like, oh, I can do it again. So I did it for 42 days straight. And that kind of started me on the kind of more internal work and just slowing down my internal world.
I want to get kind of in the weeds for a minute. For people that don't journal, right?
Yeah.
How did you start? How did you incorporate it into your daily routine? And how much time did you dedicate to it?
So that one was actually, if anyone wants to start, I think there's a great way that you could do an exercise like this. It was a meditation and then there was a journaling prompt.
Okay.
So that one was kind of we'll call it an exercise. But I have a current journaling practice that is probably at this point 5 days a week, where I just focus on what I want to create in my day. And I do an I am journaling prompt. I just do I am. So getting up today, I was like, what do I want to be? I'm on a podcast. I want to be confident. I want to be calm. I want to be joyful. So I just I do an I am journaling prompt every day for about 5 minutes.
And you do this in the morning?
Yeah, first thing. So.
And is anyone around? Do you create the time by yourself?
No one is around. I do it before my family wakes up. Unfortunately, at my age, I wake up at 4:30 a.m. So that's positive and negative. Positive as I have 3 hours before I have to even, start working. Negative as I go to bed at 8 o'clock at night. But yeah, so yeah, I do it like before anyone gets up.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So you start journaling. Obviously, there's stuff coming. It's a little guided, it sounds like, but there's stuff coming up for you that feels, you said, like home, familiar, but it was nourishing in a way. Is that fair?
Yeah, totally.
So take us through where you kind of got more curious and you wanted to do more. You wanted more of this.
Yeah. So COVID was both a little bit of home for me because I was slowing down and that felt really good. But I also had a little bit of tragedy that happened during COVID, which really was probably the impetus of my midlife awakening, as I call it. But as you know, my dad died of COVID, 30 days in the ICU, and he passed away. And mom died 11 months later in a tragic car accident. So I had 2 parent deaths in 11 months. And as you know, it was just a really hard time for me. And it was such an awakening of how short life can be and how much time is left and that it can be taken like that, right? So while it was very painful and hard, it really was an awakening time for me. And I just started to look at every single day as a bit of a gift. And how do I get really intentional about my life? Like, how do I wake up every single day and be the best version of myself? And then that is going to spill out into the world, to my friends, to my husband, to my daughter, And I'm not perfect, but I try really hard every single day. And it's brought me so much joy and clarity and curiosity, right? So while there's this, it sounds like it's intense as I'm saying it, but it's like, I almost feel like it's become my purpose is to be the best I can, which has opened a lot of curiosity as to like, what can I read? What more can I learn about? So that prompted me to take a year-long coaching course with the Institute of Integrative Nutrition. It was holistic health, and it was about mind, body, spirituality, connection, food. And I loved it. I again felt home in that program. So I finished that, and then I was like, what can I do with this? And just started kind of putting some very light feelers out regarding the stuff I was interested in.
I want to, before you keep going, I want to go back to, so I feel like we're kind of at this age where a lot of our friends, myself included, our parents are getting into their 80s and 90s. The obvious on the horizon is dealing with what comes next with that. And aging parents in and of itself can be stressful for them as well as for us. Tragically losing your parents in such a short amount of time from one another, as well as the distance, right? Go back to, I know this story, but for someone listening that doesn't know you, go back to when you reflect. I witnessed this, but share if you can today, going back to that point in time, how the journaling and the beginning of this awakening or awareness, do you feel like you were able to navigate some of the challenges of having something come out of the blue, tragedy come out of the blue within a short amount of time, on top of COVID, on top of losing jobs, right? There was a lot happening. How do you feel you were more equipped, being in a more grounded place, had you not started journaling and becoming curious?
Yeah. I think I've reflected a lot on that. And when you start to do this inner work, this meditation, there's a sense of self that isn't identified with as much of my outer world. And I'm not saying I wasn't my parents' daughter, but you start to cultivate a sense of self in that there was a strength and resilience that I had that helped me navigate all of it with a ton of grace. And I wish I could tell you the exact answer, right? Because I feel like this is what we're always searching for.
Right.
But there was a an inner peace to me that helped me prepare for what happened. And I think it came from the meditation. And when I say meditation, I don't even mean sitting in meditation like this for 20 minutes a day. And I don't do it very long. I do it 10, 20 minutes. On the weekends, I'll do longer. Some days I'll do longer. But there was an awareness to my thoughts. There was the idea that I am not my thoughts. I am not the tragedy that happened to me. I am something more than that. I'm the awareness behind that. And there's so much more. And there was that piece. And then there was so much more of what is out there for me to experience. And I think that's where the curiosity came, right? Like, how can I let go of, when you start to watch your thoughts, you start to see what you've been thinking and what you're fearful about and what you're envious about and what you feel lack of. And so when you start to look at that and you start to kind of heal it, it creates this like openness and or space for all these new things. And I think that's the space I'm in now, is like, what else can I do and create and learn about? Because I feel like we have such a short time on earth, right? And like, how can I make the best of it?
So let's go back to, we've talked about journaling. Let's talk about meditation. What was your first kind of interest and entrance into meditating?
It was for sure that 21-day meditation with Deepak.
Because you would journal after. So it would start with
it was meditation and then journaling. Yeah. Okay. So that was the 21-day. And it was just these really like beautiful messages about abundance, right? Based on Eastern philosophy, which just resonated with me. So that was the start. And then I would say what my practice has grown into is just being able to just get right in it, like, and almost craving it. It's like there's this other world you can go into that doesn't have like any stress and any problems and any wrinkles on my face, right?
Menopause issues.
It doesn't have menopause. It doesn't have, So it's an escape. I hate to call it an escape because I'm not trying to escape from my life, but sometimes we have to.
I would say quiet. It's putting yourself in timeout.
Yeah.
Right? Stillness. That's how I feel. Yes. For me, I'm not quite as dedicated as you, but I know of the last couple of months, I have been very dedicated to meditating. And for me, I almost feel like I have to put myself in timeout to stop the noise, right? Yeah. And there's a lot, and we'll get to this in a minute. So I want to talk about, talk about Joe Dispenza and the impact that he's had on you. How were you first introduced? Yeah. And for those who don't know, let's give a little bio on Joe Dispenza.
So I read a book by Dr. Joe Dispenza called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. And there was one chapter that just really stuck with me. And I think I just started talking to people about it. I'm like, so it's called Survival versus Creation. And there's a part of our brain where we live in survival. And people don't even realize it, right? It's like this early human response in that we used to have to fight for food and we used to have to fight other humans, right? Just to live. And while we don't have to do that anymore, we're throwing ourselves into this survival fight or flight by stress at work, comparing myself to my neighbor, thinking my kid needs to do something or feeling like their grade should be better, right? All the things. We can name 100 things a day. So when I read that chapter, I was like, I've been living in survival, right? I think my parents lived in survival.
Especially that generation, right?
Right. So it just, that really clicked for me. And I was like, okay, I don't want to live in survival. I want to live in creation. Right. And creation means like, and again, I'm going to get a little woo woo, friends, but I believe we create our lives from the inside out. And I appreciate you calling me intentional my whole life. I don't know that I've remembered that or that I've been intentional, but I guess I have. So when I read that, I was like, how do I get more intentional? How do I get more creative, creating from the inside out? So that's the chapter that resonated with me. I think I started talking to a lot of people about it, and a business partner of mine that was also interested in the book and interested in his meditations, because he does workshops, hired me to teach a course on it for his employees. So I'm teaching this, I'm mixing my kind of professional world with my kind of spiritual self-growth world. So a little uncomfortable.
No, so I want to kind of back up a little bit though. Yeah. And again, I know the story, so I'm trying to have you share. As you started really digging into the work of Dr. Joe, you started to create and manifest something for yourself, right?
Yes.
Talk about what that started to look like before you got the call.
Oh, got it. Yes. I bought a journal, and I guess I could plug it because it's super cool. It's called Project 369, and you literally journal on things you want to create in your life every single day. I forgot I did that. See, I forget. I move on quickly, and I journaled on basically like sharing this information, creating a side business that would help share this information with people. And I journaled on it for an entire summer. That's right, I forgot. And then my business partner, I mentioned meditation a couple times, and then he hired me to do this. So it was intentional journaling. Yeah.
So you have this call or this discussion. You guys were clearly vibrating on the same wavelength around meditation, and he wanted to hire you to share.
Yes.
So talk a little bit about, obviously this is all something that you have created, but it's based on the work of Joe Dispenza. Yeah. Give kind of like a high level overview of the approach that you've taken, the length of the program.
Got it. I'm doing it over 6 months, and it's 90 minutes the first Monday of every month. We do it in the morning because that's when people are just a little more receptive in their brains. They haven't gotten into what we call the high beta, like stress stage yet. And we do a meditation, and then Dr. Joe has a lot of research behind the benefits of meditation, and he really tries to pull the woo-woo out of it. And there's so much people don't understand about how their brain works and what brain waves are more receptive to making change. So the whole idea with Dr. Joe is if you do your meditations, we can get into what we call the operating system of the brain, which is where those kind of those habits and those emotions that we really hold true, that we don't realize we have, we can get into that operating system and make like real change. So the book is a lot about how the brain works and how meditation can help literally change the brain to create like almost a new personality and a new kind of whatever you want to change. Right?
So let's lean in on that a little bit. I too have read this book, and I do a lot of his meditations, and the operating system, I'll use the term belief system, right? Very powerful, right? If we have a story that has defined us, or we tell ourselves a story we think to be true, breaking that is part of the work, right? What has been a belief system for you, either personally, professionally, whatever you're comfortable sharing, that you feel like no longer is true for you anymore?
Oh my God, so many. But I think one that is showing up a lot this week, I'll just like focus on the present, is I don't have to move through my life as fast as I think I used to have to.
Ooh,
I
tell me
used to
more.
have to like, it was stress.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, we got to go. Come on. Even to my daughter, like every day, like we got to go to school. We got to, there was like an intensity around moving fast because there's not enough time to do everything. Right. So I've like just being able to slow down a bit has been so helpful. It's
Mm-hmm.
helpful in my relationships with my family. I'm not rushing my daughter out the door. If she tells me she wants to spend 5 more minutes doing something, I go, okay. And everyone has a schedule, but
Mm-hmm.
there's a freedom around not having to like pack my weeks and rush around as much as I feel like I used to. And I'm still getting the same amount done.
Mm-hmm. There's power there, right? And people hear this, and I'm sure they're not just hearing it from us, right? All of this
Yeah.
information is out there. But it's that, how do you take the first step? Because if you're wired to go, 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 go,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
funny because I myself am sitting in this where my life has changed dramatically, but yet I'm in a stressful situation with moving and wedding planning and all the stuff. When I do become aware of it's all going to be all right,
Yeah.
how do you identify the thoughts? Like for
Mm-hmm.
someone that hasn't read a Joe Dispenza, not
Yeah.
familiar with any of this, what's a simple headline of here's a simple thing you can do to just quiet the need to rush, rush, rush?
Yeah.
What does that look like? What advice do you have for
Yeah.
someone?
I think we have to watch our emotions. When you feel the feeling coming up, right? Like there's an emotion attached to all of this. The emotion, I'm trying to think of what the emotion would be for rushing. It would probably be fear and scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Like a fear of like, there's something I have to do. I have to get this done. I have to, right? So just I think you want just a headline. A headline is look for your be aware of your emotions. Be aware of stuff coming up, and then try to put space in between that and whatever the reaction is. Because you can feel the thing coming up. Like I sometimes feel like I've got to rush. We got to go. There's not enough time. And then I go, okay, there it is. And I say, all right, take a breath. And doesn't mean I have to say we got to go. I can be like, hey, are you ready? Let's head out soon. Right. So
Mm-hmm.
it's a recognizing the emotion and catching it, taking a couple seconds,
Mm-hmm.
not having the reaction. Because I used to have a reaction around it.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just gotten better at not from having the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it really is like being aware. I mean, there's no other way to say it, right?
Yeah.
If you're not aware of an emotion, or, I mean, it seems simple, but as an observer, you see things differently than being in it, right?
Yes.
Talk about kind of the work to do to take yourself out and to become an observer.
Yeah. Yeah. We talked about this on Monday in my workshop. One of the girls was having a moment with her mom who really triggers her. And she said, and then I remembered I'm the observer. I'm not in it. Right? Like, yeah, it's you can create a little separation between whatever you're feeling in the moment by watching it. Right? Like we're the only humans, we're the only mammals that are able to do this. It's called metacognition because our brains are so intelligent and intelligently designed that we are able to watch them. No one else. This is why a dog, Nico, like goes and chases whatever he sees out front because he's got no metacognition. He can't say, I shouldn't chase the dog.
Right.
He just goes, right? And unless we train him, which we haven't. But yeah, we have the ability to watch our thoughts like no other mammal does.
Yeah.
So I think we should use that.
I mean, I know for me, slowing down has allowed me to be more observant. But yet anyone who knows me looks at my pace right now. It doesn't appear as though I've slowed down because I have so much going on, but I feel like I've slowed this down. And it's as simple as getting on my mat, because I literally do yoga every morning. I get on my mat. I stop before I even start my day. So it really is so simple. And, you know, people can argue I don't have the time or the kids or it's how important is it and how much do you want it, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I have so many thoughts around this. If someone says they don't have the time, I'd say look at a day or a week, whatever you want, as much time as you want to put in here, write everything you do, and then decide what gives you energy and what takes away your energy. I assure you there are things you can pull out of that day, week, and incorporate a practice that will help you calm down, slow down, move into your internal world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, how bad do you want it, right? How important is it?
So how bad do you feel, right?
Yeah. Or do you even know you feel bad, right?
Right.
We become so programmed and, you know, this is our routine. And let's talk about that for a minute, because it's easy to be the victim, right? If I'm the victim, I don't have to be accountable. I don't have to have any blame. You know, we all know a victim and we've all been a victim.
Yep.
Talk about how when you see yourself going into that, like I love when you were preparing for your workshop, you tell the story about doing the laundry. I'm sure that is a rinse and repeat, pun intended, thought process that everyone has when they're doing laundry for their husband and their kids.
Right.
Talk about that.
Yeah. So the whole idea there was recognizing, you know, again, being the observer of our thoughts and recognizing emotion. And I was realizing that when I would do laundry for my family, sorry, fam, love you. There was I'll just name it resentment because I've now kind of named the emotion. There was a resentment coming up of like, I do everything. And that's what it sounded like. And I love saying it like this. I do everything. Right? Like victim face, victim voice.
Right.
One, I don't do everything at all. I have a very participatory husband and, but I'm like, where'd this track come from? Right? Like, so I noticed it. I do everything. Sad. But I was doing laundry. I do laundry 5 times a week, right? Times however many loads. So I noticed this coming up. And I was like, wow, I do everything. No, I don't. One, ask yourself if it's true. I love that question, right? Like if you feel or hear something coming up, kind of go like, is that even true? I'm like, all right, it's not true. I don't do everything. And I've switched it to gratitude now. But I've also noticed it. I was like hosing off the patio a week later and it came up. I was like, I do everything. And I was like, no, you don't. You don't do everything. So it's, again, we're the observer of our thoughts. We can notice the thought. We can notice the emotion, the resentment. And then we can decide to reframe it.
How reframe doing laundry?
My reframe was, I'm so grateful to have a family to do laundry for. And sometimes I just look out the window because I have a window in my laundry room and I'm like, look how pretty it is outside. How lucky am I to live in this like nice neighborhood? Like how many people there's billions of people on earth that would love to live where I live. Like I just turn it to grateful, right? Mm-hmm. So, and now I've turned almost any complaining I do into grateful, which is a lot of work, but yeah.
How do you feel? So as you've changed, how does your family, I know I have an opinion, but how your tight circle, close circles, how have they changed as you've changed?
I would say good. I mean, I think my daughter recognizes I'm calmer, recognizes I'm less reactive. I think, I honestly believe whatever we put out is what we get back. So I'm just getting more calm and I'm getting more openness back from my family and my friends.
Do you feel like I like openness, like when how do I say this? When we're not vibrating with an energy of I have to, I need to, like, can you share an example of where your openness has been received in a way that you may not have seen in the past? because,
Oh,
you know what I
yeah.
mean?
Yeah. One practice I try to put in place in my house is when I react, I say, I'm sorry.
Mm.
Very quickly though, like, because I notice it and I still not perfect, right? But I there's still reactions. And I reacted with my daughter at one point, and I just walked in a room and I was like, hey, I'm really sorry I reacted. You know, I was just feeling a little tired. You know, I try to explain why too, because there's always a reason. And sometimes I'm just tired, right? Like, and I've noticed she reacts and says she's sorry. So that happened recently where she can't remember what she said to me. It doesn't matter. And I was like, oh, okay. Right. And then like 2 minutes later, she was like, I'm sorry I did that. And I was like, she's modeling it.
I
Right.
know.
So
I
yeah.
see it with her. Yeah. It has a ripple effect, right?
Yes.
Just like when you're in a bad mood, everyone's on pins and needles. When you're in a good mood, people feel it, right?
Yes. Yes.
So let's go back to the work you're doing. So again, someone hired you to do the 6-month workshop.
Yeah.
So it's basically on the book from Joe Dispenza that you mentioned, how to rewire your, what is it?
Breaking the habit of being yourself.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you have, how many people would you say fit in the workshop?
There's probably 45 or 50.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good sized crowd.
Yeah.
So you go in, you go through a chapter or two each one of these sessions. Talk to us about how people receive, like kind of how do you gauge the audience and some of the people that have come up to you afterwards, very vulnerable.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think it is helping people think differently, right? In the session I just taught on Monday, I asked the question, have we all been observing our thoughts more than we ever have since we started this workshop? And there were at least like 10 head nods, like, wow. It's like we've never been taught this stuff, which I think is such a bummer, right? Like, it makes me think, like, why don't we teach this stuff in school? Why don't we teach more self-growth? Why don't we teach more self-realization, more study, know thyself? I mean, that was like Socrates said, know thyself is like where we start. Like, I'm probably going to go off on a tangent, but what if every single person just decided to work on themselves in this world, right? And then that's what would spill out. Right. So did I answer your question?
You did, but that's
Right?
for the next podcast subject. Why don't we? I think just based on some of what you've shared, I love how vulnerable people are, right? I think from what I've experienced personally, part of my growth has been getting more vulnerable. When I interviewed Debbie, the owner of Buddha Bella, we were talking about spiritual awakenings, and she's like, I don't think it's one big moment. I think it's just getting honest with yourself.
Yeah, I love that. I heard
right?
that. Yeah.
Very simple,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
How many of us are honest with ourselves, right? And so it sounds like you are giving them, which a work environment may not always be considered a safe place.
Yeah, I know.
But again, this goes back to the ripple effect of how you're perceived. And I'm sure people that work with you have seen a change with you as well, right?
Yeah.
So, so fast forward to where are you now? So you are this innate, curious, and constant learner, I would say, right? And so it's almost like this drug for you, right? You're learning it, you're feeling the effects. Where do you want to go next?
Yeah. I think for the first time in my life, I'm more open to where I want to go. It's not as clear, and that's okay. What I do know is the more we kind of open up our minds and focus on like what's going on inside, the more the unknown is a possibility. So, in the same way that I kind of brought in my business partner to have me do this with a couple conversations, I'm kind of like, what could happen next? I don't know, right? So I like to say I live in infinite possibilities, and I feel like that's where I want to kind of sit. And I would love to share this information with more people. Doing a custom course on one specific book was a lot, but it was such a gift in that I got to use myself as the guinea pig through the entire thing. So I don't know exactly what is next, but I have a health coaching certification, and I've like dived into all this mindfulness stuff that I feel like something more is going to come from that. Yeah.
It's interesting. We had our weekend in Flagstaff. There was this beautiful chef that came and cooked for us all weekend. What a beautiful treat that was. She was, I forget, 27.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And it's amazing to me when we meet these really evolved 20-some-year-old, right?
Right. Yeah.
Obviously, we didn't have the amount of information that they have, the exposure. Their parents raising them are a different generation than ours.
Yes.
So a lot has changed. But for Remy, your sweet 13-year-old daughter, what do you hope as she goes into her 20s? A super amazing, scary, add the description for going through your 20s. What do you hope she takes from what she's observing as she steps into adulthood?
Yeah. So we always play the song Higher Love in our house, and we dance around to it. And I'm always like, do you know what a higher love is? Do you know what it is? So I'm trying to, in a parent to a 13-year-old way, because they don't want to sit down and listen to a lecture. I hope I'm modeling and infusing the fact that there is a higher power out there. There's something that is in alignment with us to help us through. And I'm currently reading a book by Dr. Lisa Miller that I would recommend to anybody, but it's called The Spiritual Child. Yeah, The Spiritual Child. And it's all about if you can infuse children with spirituality. Like they're born with it, and then we kind of like condition them and do all the things in between, which makes us all forget, right? How much that can be a companion for them to not result in depression and addiction and so many things. So what I hope I can do with Remy and what I'm working really hard at is infusing this like piece of higher power, and there's someone aligned with you, and you're not alone no matter what happened, right? And it's not just us, it's that.
Trusting in the beyond, right? Yeah. Oh, I love that. What, just as we kind of end, what would you say for people listening? And thank you for those listening, especially if you don't know Kelly or myself and you happen to stumble across this. I think about how much is happening, and I'm pointing outside, but it's a crazy time. It's a scary time. It's a beautiful time. What do you feel is the power that we have right now? I like spirituality. Let's hold on to that. But where are we as a collective, as the human race, right? What do you find most powerful that we can do starting today to make the world a better place?
Self-realization and self-reflection. I think it starts with us, right? It starts with each individual person working on themselves. I've always loved this quote: spend so much time on the improvement of yourself, you have no time to criticize others. Like, what if we did that? Not easy, because there's so many people to criticize. Working on judgment, but right? Anytime you're about to point the finger, remember there's how many pointing back at us, right? So I think it all starts here.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed. Kelly, thank you.
Thank you, friends. Loved it.
Love you.
Okay.
Thank you.